Imagine waking up one day and finding that your homeland no longer exists. Not because of war, not because of conquest, but because nature, or history itself, erased it from the map. In today's countdown, we're diving into the top 20 countries that might disappear in the next 50 years. Some are sinking beneath rising seas, some are crumbling under political chaos, and others face disasters so severe, their very survival is uncertain. So grab your passport, because this trip might be the last chance to visit some of these nations. Number 20, the Solomon Islands. The Solomon Islands, an archipelago in the South Pacific, is home to 500,000 people who are living on borrowed time. Over the past 2 decades, at least 5 of its smaller islands have already vanished beneath the waves. Entire villages have been forced to relocate as sea levels rise, shorelines erode, and salt water destroys crops. But it's not just climate change. The Solomon Islands also sits in the Pacific's Ring of Fire, where earthquakes and tsunamis strike with terrifying frequency. The 2007 tsunami wiped out entire coastal communities. Combine that with political instability and limited resources, and the Solomon Islands may not survive in its current form for another generation. Why it might disappear: rising sea plus extreme natural disasters. Number 19, Bangladesh. Bangladesh is often called ground zero for climate change, and for good reason. This densely populated country is crisscrossed by rivers, but those rivers are also its greatest threat. Every monsoon season, devastating floods displace millions. Add to that the slow but relentless rise of the Bay of Bengal, and scientists predict that 17% of the country could be underwater by 2050. That would force over 20 million people to become climate refugees. But the danger doesn't stop there. Bangladesh also faces powerful cyclones, overpopulation, and limited land for farming. Unless drastic global action is taken, Bangladesh could see entire regions erased from the map, creating one of the largest mass migrations in human history. Why it might disappear: flooding plus sea level rise plus overpopulation. Number 18, the Marshall Islands. The Marshall Islands is a tropical paradise in the Pacific, but paradise has an expiration date. The nation's highest natural point is barely 6 feet above sea level. That means even a moderate rise in ocean level could make the entire country uninhabitable. Already, saltwater intrusion is poisoning freshwater supplies and destroying crops. Floods regularly wash through homes, and the government has admitted that parts of the islands may soon be impossible to live on. Even more haunting, the Marshall Islands is one of the most radioactive places on Earth. During the Cold War, the U.S. tested dozens of nuclear weapons there, leaving behind contaminated land that still cannot be safely used. Why it might disappear: rising seas plus uninhabitable land from both nature and history. Number 17, Haiti. Haiti is one of the most disaster-prone nations in the world, and sadly, its people never seem to get a break. The country sits directly on a tectonic fault line, which has caused catastrophic earthquakes like the 2010 quake that killed over 200,000 people. On top of that, Haiti suffers from hurricanes, political instability, deforestation, and poverty. These overlapping crises weaken the country's ability to recover each time disaster strikes. Experts fear that if another megaquake or a series of devastating hurricanes hit, combined with ongoing political chaos, Haiti could collapse entirely, either being abandoned by its people or surviving only as a failed state. Why it might disappear: natural disasters plus political instability. Number 16, the Maldives. The Maldives is famous for luxury resorts and turquoise waters, but those same waters are swallowing it whole. This nation of 1,200 islands is the lowest lying country in the world, with an average ground level of just 4 feet above sea level. Climate scientists warn that by the end of this century, most of the Maldives could be completely submerged. Already, coastal flooding is eroding land and contaminating the limited freshwater supply. The Maldivian government has even started buying land abroad, preparing for the day when its entire population might need to relocate. Imagine an entire country gone except for postcards and memories. Why it might disappear: rising seas swallowing its islands. And that's just the beginning. If you thought the Maldives or Haiti had it bad, wait until you see the next 5 countries where war, rising seas, and even entire cultures are on the brink of extinction. Number 15, Yemen. Yemen is already teetering on the edge of collapse. Years of civil war, foreign intervention, famine, and disease outbreaks have left the country in ruins. The United Nations calls it the world's worst humanitarian crisis. But beyond war, Yemen has another ticking time bomb: water. Sana'a, its capital city, may be the first capital in the world to completely run out of water. Add to this rising sea levels along the Red Sea coast, and Yemen faces a future where its land is unlivable and its population forced to flee. Why it might disappear: civil war plus famine plus running out of water. Number 14, North Korea. At first, North Korea might not seem like it belongs on this list. After all, it's heavily militarized. But experts warn that the regime is fragile. Years of isolation, famine, sanctions, and internal oppression mean that if the leadership collapses, so might the entire state. And then there's the risk of war. Any major conflict with South Korea or the United States could end in nuclear catastrophe. In that scenario, North Korea might not disappear underwater like the Maldives, but as a sovereign country, it could vanish, absorbed into South Korea or left a wasteland. Why it might disappear: political collapse plus war risks. Number 13, the Netherlands. Shocking but true, even a wealthy, developed country like the Netherlands is at risk. Much of a nation already lies below sea level, protected only by a vast system of dikes and flood defenses. Without them, over a third of the country would be underwater. But climate change is raising seas faster than ever, and more powerful storms threaten to overwhelm those defenses. The Dutch are world leaders in flood control, but scientists warn that even they may not be able to keep up forever. Why it might disappear: rising seas overwhelming defenses. Number 12, Vanuatu. Vanuatu, another Pacific island nation, is one of the most disaster-prone countries on Earth. It faces constant threats: volcanoes, cyclones, earthquakes, tsunamis, and sea level rise. In 2015, Cyclone Pam destroyed 90% of buildings on the islands. In 2023, twin cyclones hit within just 48 hours, leaving mass destruction behind. Scientists estimate that Vanuatu could be one of the first nations where rising seas and extreme weather make life impossible. The government has already considered relocating communities abroad, a haunting sign that they may one day have to abandon their homeland entirely. Why it might disappear: extreme natural disasters plus rising seas. Number 11, Syria. Syria is already a country in ruins. After more than a decade of civil war, millions have fled, entire cities are rubble, and large portions of the nation are under control of rival forces. But climate plays a role too. Before the war, Syria suffered one of the worst droughts in its history, which fueled unrest and migration. Going forward, droughts will only get worse, while war, terrorism, and foreign intervention continue to tear the nation apart. In the next 50 years, Syria as we know it might not exist. It could fragment into smaller states, be permanently occupied, or simply collapse. Why it might disappear: war plus drought plus state collapse. And we're not done yet. The top 10 countries on this list face some of the most shocking, heartbreaking, and world-changing risks of all. From Africa to the Pacific, entire nations could vanish before our eyes. Number 10, Iraq. Iraq has endured decades of war, sanctions, and instability, but one of its greatest threats isn't military. It's water. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers, once the cradle of Mesopotamian civilization, are drying up. Dams in neighboring Turkey and Iran are cutting off the flow, while climate change makes droughts even more severe. Add to that rising desertification, political instability, and lingering conflict, and Iraq faces a risk of becoming literally unlivable in the near future. Some experts predict that by 2040, Baghdad itself could struggle to sustain its population. Why it might disappear: drought plus political instability plus war legacy. Number 9, Madagascar. Madagascar, the island nation off Africa's east coast, is one of the most biodiverse places on Earth, but it's also on the edge of collapse. Years of deforestation have destroyed critical ecosystems, while prolonged droughts in the south have created what the UN calls the world's first climate-induced famine. Entire villages have been abandoned as people starve and flee. Rising seas also threaten the island's coast, while political instability makes recovery difficult. If trends continue, Madagascar could lose not just land, but its ability to sustain human life. Why it might disappear: drought plus famine plus deforestation. Number 8, South Sudan. South Sudan is the world's youngest country, but also one of its most fragile. Since gaining independence in 2011, it's been plagued by civil war, poverty, and hunger. Entire regions are controlled by rival militias, and millions have been displaced. Climate change is making things worse. Intense floods swamp farmland, while extreme droughts kill crops. The Nile River, once a lifeline, is now a source of conflict as neighboring countries fight over water rights. If South Sudan cannot stabilize, experts fear it could collapse completely, either dissolving into warring states or being absorbed by neighbors. Why it might disappear: civil war plus famine plus flooding. Number 7. Tuvalu. Tuvalu is one of the smallest and lowest-lying nations in the world. With just 12,000 citizens scattered across coral atolls, Tuvalu's existence is hanging by a thread. Already, king tides flood homes and saltwater ruins crops. Some projections say the entire nation could be uninhabitable by 2050. The government has gone as far as creating a digital version of Tuvalu, scanning its landmarks so its culture can survive online even if the land disappears. If global warming continues unchecked, Tuvalu will literally vanish beneath the Pacific Ocean, making it the world's first true digital nation. Why it might disappear: sea level rise plus vanishing land. Number 6. Somalia. Somalia has long been considered a failed state, and its problems are only getting worse. Civil war, terrorism, piracy, and famine have crippled the country for decades. Millions depend on international aid just to survive. But climate change is piling on new challenges. Prolonged droughts kill crops and livestock, while rising seas threaten its long coastline. Combine that with ongoing conflict and poverty, an expert warns Somalia could disintegrate entirely, leaving behind chaos instead of a functioning country. Why it might disappear: state collapse plus famine plus climate change. And now we've reached the final 5. These countries are facing such extreme threats that their survival in the next half-century is truly uncertain. From rising seas and nuclear risks, these are the nations that may be gone before today's children grow old. Number 5. Sudan. Sudan has already split once. In 2011, South Sudan broke away after decades of brutal conflict. But the north that remained has not fared much better. Sudan is plagued by civil war, famine, and political coups. Millions are displaced, and ethnic conflicts continue to tear communities apart. On top of this, desertification is spreading rapidly, swallowing farmland and forcing nomadic people into conflict over shrinking resources. Rising global temperatures could push entire regions past the point of habitability. If Sudan continues on this path, experts warn it may collapse entirely or break into smaller states, vanishing as a unified country. Why it might disappear: civil war plus famine plus desertification. Number 4. Kiribati. Kiribati is a small island nation scattered across the Central Pacific, but its future is among the most dire on Earth. Its highest point is barely 3 meters above sea level. Already, some islands are being washed away by storm surges and rising seas. The government has taken extraordinary steps, even purchasing land in Fiji as a backup location for its citizens. Officials openly admit that the day may come when the entire population must leave. If the oceans keep rising, Kiribati will vanish beneath the waves, not in centuries, but within decades. Why it might disappear: rising sea plus forced relocation. Number 3. The Gambia. The Gambia is Africa's smallest mainland country, stretching along the Gambia River. But nearly 1/3 of its population lives on the coast, where rising seas threaten farmland and homes. The nation is also highly vulnerable to drought, overpopulation, and food insecurity. Scientists warn that without massive adaptation efforts, the Gambia could lose most of its livable land by 2100, essentially erasing it as a functioning country. Why it might disappear: sea level rise plus food insecurity. Number 2. Palau. Palau is a tropical paradise in the Pacific, but it's a paradise in peril. Like Tuvalu and the Maldives, Palau's islands are being eaten away by the ocean. Storm surges, coral bleaching, and rising seas are already devastating its environment. Tourism, its main economic engine, is declining as climate damage accelerates. Officials warn that Palau may not survive the century without global action. It could become another ghost nation, its people scattered, its islands submerged. Why it might disappear: rising seas plus collapsing economy. Number 1. Nauru. Nauru. the world's third smallest country, has perhaps the bleakest outlook of all. Once rich from phosphate mining, the island has been left a barren wasteland. 80% of its land is uninhabitable. To make matters worse, rising seas threaten its already tiny habitable area, and its economy is nearly non-existent. The government relies heavily on aid and controversial deals, like hosting offshore detention centers for other nations. Scientists and political analysts alike warn that Nauru may become the first country in modern history to simply cease to exist, with no land, no economy, and no viable future. Why it might disappear: environmental collapse plus economic failure plus rising seas. So there you have it, the 20 countries most at risk of disappearing in the next 50 years. From giant nations like Bangladesh and Iraq to tiny islands like Tuvalu and Nauru, the threats are real, and the clock is ticking. Which of these nations shocked you the most? And do you think the world can still save them? Or is it already too late? Let me know in the comments, because I read every one of them. And if you found this countdown eye-opening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon, because we've got more fascinating deep dives coming your way. Until next time, stay curious, and remember, nothing lasts forever, not even countries.